What's going on, everyone? How y'all doing today? It's March 4th. You're back for another episode of Why Lose Sports NHL Wagering Podcast, Puck You. I'm Mike Burns. I'm here with Why Lose NHL handicapper Les Victory. We're going to be diving into 3 games on the docket tonight. But first, we need to check in with our boy, Mr. Canadian Bacon himself. Les, how we doing today, brother?
Hey, Burnsy, man. Better than the Devils that you support day in and day out. And you know what? I really admire your passion for them. But holy man, that ship has sailed, brother. Time to retire, hang the shirt up for another year, throw on whatever team you want to bandwagon for the rest of the year. And it's just not going good in Jersey Town right now. And last night, well, I guess Saturday night was kind of a weird game, right? There, a weird day, like just a lot of weird things going on in the NHL, and it seems like every Monday when we have this conversation, we bring this up, and Saturdays it's like the underdogs just decide to show up and play. Nashville spanking Colorado 5-1, Vegas getting their ass whooped by Buffalo. Like what?
Buffalo.
What's going on? And your big Minnesota team that supposedly turned a new leaf with Mr. Hines there is just
Johnny Hines.
It's not working. Beantown gets beat up again by one of their rivals. Dallas was a -610 favorite at home against the Sharks, and they did it in a shootout. My God. Oh man, I was looking at the San Jose like +3.5 line, and it was like -110. Like, man, we should be eating that, but it's too bad we didn't. And then Calgary with another big win. So kind of a weird Saturday, tough one to handicap because of all that stupidity. I mean, we did have our big bet on the Rangers to go into Leaf Nation and steal that one on the road. We lose it in a shootout off of a hit post. One of those things. Could have went either way. I thought New York played the better game, but, Samsonov made that one huge save coming across there. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the big coming across save that kept it in. And it was like at that point, you kind of knew it was like, ooh, this is going to be bad news for New York. But they got the late goal. They sent it to a shootout. It just didn't work out, but it happens.
Yeah, weird weekend, man. And we kind of talked about how, when you come down to this home stretch here, I mean, these games just get a little goofier. I don't really know what the rhyme or reason is. I mean, people are either looking at the golf course or they're looking for the postseason. So everything bounces off real goofy when you get to this point of the season.
Even the Florida game, to go into Detroit as hot as the Wings have been and to shut them out on the road, like, I know Florida's a great team, but Detroit's been red hot lately too. And then they lose their winning streak, and then things kind of took a turn for them again. And now they got to get their shit figured out again before damage control before anything too crazy happens. I mean, it's not like I think the East is pretty well where it's going to end up anyway, so it might be irrelevant. But just a weird one. Another big win for Florida, man. How good is this team?
Team is fucking stacked, bro. Firing on all systems. All right, let's get into the games tonight. Let's start off with St. Louis and Philadelphia. St. Louis coming in at +110. Philly -130. Over under here set at 5.5. We'll start in St. Louis. Last 10 for the Blues. They're 4-5-1. I mean, this team just screams inconsistencies. I mean, Binner played real well against Minnesota, stopping their hot streak the other night. I mean, they with that win, they snapped a 3-game losing streak. I mean, this team just doesn't know how to score, man. They're 26th in the league. Their D is mid at best. They give up 3.08 goals per game and allow 32 shots. I don't know how they're going to fare here against. I mean, listen, Philly is holding, that spot in the playoffs, and we'll see if they hang on to him in the next 23 games that we have left here. But, I mean, Torts has his guys. It's a young team. It's a young, streaky team. They've got streaks of, 5 wins, 5 losses, 4 wins, and then another 2 losses. I mean, they're 6-3-1 in their last 10. Their last 10. I mean, what do you see as the matchup over here between Philly and St. Louis?
Well, obviously Philadelphia is missing Konechny because he's a big part of that offense for Philadelphia, and they just haven't been as good without him as they are with him. So it's actually their last 10 games has kind of been the opposite of what you're saying. Like they've been streaky all year, winning several, losing several, but not. They've been kind of choppy. Win one, lose two. Win one, lose two. Kind of system. So they're really going to want to get healthy again. And yeah, you're right. St. Louis just struggles to put the puck in the net. And they I thought they had a really good power play lately. I still think they do. Like the numbers show it. They're averaging a power play goal a game. But the last game against Minnesota, they had 7 power plays. 7. They scored 1, and they only put 27 shots on net. You got 7 power plays. You can pretty much count on for 2 to 3 shots per power play, almost without a doubt. Like that's just the way power plays should be played. So they're only getting 12, 13 shots over 3 periods at even strength. Like that's just not going to cut it for St. Louis right now. With that being said, though, I do like the over in this game. As much as St. Louis has a hard time getting the net, Philadelphia's goaltending has been not very good. They're rolling 3 goalies like on a regular basis right now. Pettersson and Sandstrom both have played in the last 5, and obviously Urson too. And there's been a lot of inconsistencies over that span. And as a group, they're giving up over 3.5 goals against with an 8.58 save percentage. So even though St. Louis struggles to get the puck to the net and put up goals, which they can, they've proven it before. They definitely can. So I just think 5.5 is too low on this game. And let's see what happens. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I sneezed before. Philly's a young team, man. They're young, they're streaky, and traditionally when Torts comes into a new city, he usually catches lightning in a bottle. It takes a couple of years before his antics to kind of get tired in the locker room. They're built on structure and defense. Everyone knows their assignments, and for the most part, they played their assignments. Everyone's got their guy on a guy. But I mean, one thing that this team is not afraid to do is they're not afraid to shoot the puck, man. I mean, they're 3rd in the league in shots. They're defensively, they have the best penalty killing in the league, right? And they're 11th in the league with goals against with 2.98. I mean, with a scrappy offense, I mean, I know we're going to miss Konechny. That's a big part of their offense. Drysdale is also hurt right now. But, like this kid, Tyson Forrester, he's stepped up lately. He's got 6 goals in 5 games. I'd like to ride his hot hand for an anytime goal in this game. I'm sure he's plus 210, 250.
Oh, easily. The other interesting thing about this Philadelphia Flyers team is if you compare them to the other teams in the Met, the other teams in the Atlantic, the top 3 that are fighting for home ice, the goal differential, you got New York plus 36, Carolina plus 29, Florida plus 57, Boston plus 34, and so on. What do you think Philly is? Do you know?
I think Philly's like plus 3.
Plus 5.
Oh, so close.
How are they in a playoff spot with a goal differential of plus 5?
Because this is a Torts team, though. They're just gut out W's. They don't care how they do them, but they do them.
It's hilarious because you go down near the bottom of the standings and you look at Pittsburgh, they have a plus 13 goal differential and they're not even close to a playoff spot. It's just weird. It's just a funny thing. Obviously he's brought in a defensive mindset into Philly and it's working, but they're going to have to do better than plus 5 if they want to actually make a run in this postseason. Like that's not going to cut it for them. I mean, they're still clinging on to that the last playoff spot there, but you got a lot of teams coming right up the rear on them, and there's still 20 games left. A lot can happen in 20 games. Injuries can be a big factor. We're in the dog days of hell right now for the NHL, and This is where, you see a lot of teams falling off the map recently, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, the Islanders are clinging on to their last straw. I don't think they're going to get there. Even the Caps, they've been, pushing forward to get into it, and it's just not going to happen. And like the Caps, they're minus 33 goal differential. I find that such a weird stat with respect to where these teams are in the standings.
When they give it up, they give them up in bunches. All right, let's head out to the West Coast. We're going to go to Alberta. We got Seattle walking into the Flames. Seattle is plus 120. The Flames are minus 140. Over under here set at 6 on the nose. You want to talk about offensive struggles, man. I mean, Seattle is your fucking guy. They're 28th in goals for. They're 23rd in shots per game. I mean, they've scored 2 or less goals in 6 out of their last 10. They're just inept when it comes to fucking scoring goals. But kind of like Philly, it's like that's not their game, though. I mean, they're centered around big defense, and they've gotten, they've gotten lucky and gotten good with Joey Decord and Grubauer. Decord's had a 2.45. Grubauer's got a 2.79 goals against. I mean, they're not out there putting up 4 or 5 goals, but they're not letting in 4 or 5 goals either.
No, they're a weird team for sure, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're too far in the game to get there. Now, the interesting thing is yeah, you're right. They have a really tough time of scoring goals, but they have an even a harder time scoring goals on the road. And that's where they just finished up a 6-game homestand where I think they went 3-3, which isn't terrible, but they beat some good teams. They beat Vancouver, they beat Boston, which is still a good team, even though they're doing their thing right now. And they almost took out Edmonton the other night too, a 2-1 game in that one. So it's going to be interesting to see them get back on the road. I struggle to believe that Seattle's going to post up 3-4 goals on Markstrom. He's just been really good lately. And man, you got to give Calgary some credit here. They've been just red hot. They've won 6 in a row. They're putting the puck in the net. They're averaging 4 goals a game right now over their last 5. So a couple picks that I like on this game. If you really want to get frisky, you could parlay them together. The over is at 5.5 here. Let's say Seattle does get their 2 goals that they are really good at getting. I like to believe Calgary can put 3-4 up against this team just because of how hot they've been and how much they've been scoring. They've owned the head-to-head against Seattle 8-2, and 6 out of those 10 games have gone to the over, but the most recent ones have really hit the over on that one. So I really find it impossible to take under 5.5 bet here. So if you want to get really picky on this, I like the over 5.5, and I like the team total for Seattle under 2.5.
See, like the weird part about this is that the Flames are the goofiest fucking team in the entire league, man. I mean, they've sold off so many different assets, but they keep fucking winning, dude. They got rid of Tanev a couple days ago. They got rid of Lindholm earlier in the season. But I mean, they like you said, 6 W's in a row. They have 9 wins in their last 12. I mean, like Markstrom and Hannafin are not going to be on this team by the end of the week. And you want to talk about like streaky shit, right? Like I was telling you before, they haven't won 1-1, lost 1, 1-1, or lost 1, 1-1, lost 1 ever since December 4th. They lose at a clip, they win at a clip. They got 3 wins in a row, 2 losses in a row, 4 wins in a row, 4 losses in a row, 4 wins in a row, 3 losses in a row, and now they're on this heater over here. I mean, like, is this just one of those teams where it's just going to be like, we just decide that the streak is over and we're not going to be fucking playing anymore? Or do they keep up and keep pushing here? I mean, they've scored 4 or more goals in 6 of their last 10, and everyone's supposed to be off the fucking team.
It is a weird one. And when you look at the trade bait list and you see names like, well, Tanev was on it. Obviously, he got moved to Dallas, and Markstrom and Hannafin. You got to wonder, like, okay, what is this team going to look like without these guys? Like, but right now they are still there and they are producing. So, I mean, Tanev wasn't really much of an offensive player anyway. He was that, more of a defensive, you don't want to come down his side of the wall kind of guy. But all good things have to come to an end. And yes, they've won 5 in a row, but they did this too when they traded Lindholm. They went on a little rip, but as soon as they moved him, they won 3 or 4 games in a row, and then exactly like you said, they hopped onto that streak of a few losses, and then they kind of been all over the place. But the interesting thing whenever a team moves a big player, you would think, oh, that team's not going to be any good anymore because they just unloaded, this guy and he's really good. But what it does too sometimes is, and I hate saying this because, you all know what I think about when that whole saying players step up. I don't like
next
that.
man up, brother. It's a thing.
Yeah. But what happens is it opens up different avenues for the coaching staff to shuffle lines up now, to get other players playing with other players now, because now you've literally just given away this guy to get draft picks or whatever. So you're not even replacing him, depending on the scenario, obviously. But what you are doing is you're giving the coach an opportunity to shuffle lines before, and maybe a way that they didn't see it before. So now when they go and do that, and next thing you know, you see some chemistry between these guys, and they're like playing with each other. They put up some points, then they get some confidence and that sort of thing. So sometimes offloading some players on your team does more good than bad, which is really interesting, because you think, unloading a big player, you would get worse, but in some cases it actually makes you better.
Well, like you said, they're 8-2 lifetime against the Kraken. So we're moving with, what did you say? We're going with the over here.
I like the over, and I like the team total for Seattle under 2.5. If you are parlaying them together, you could even go up to that 3.5 just to be a little safe. You'll eat a little bit of the juice on it, but it isn't a bad choice.
All right, let's go to one of the oldest rivalries in sports. We got Boston walking into Toronto. Boston at plus 115, Toronto minus 140, over and under set here at 6.5. Now, I know Boston's got a nice road record. They're 16, 6, and 9. Head-to-head, they've won the last 5 against the Leafs. But, what the fuck is going on in Boston, man? Even a 16, 6, and 9 record, it's still not a great record.
No, it's a terrible record, and here's why. We're handicappers. We bet on wins and losses 95% of the time. We don't need overtime. We don't need shootouts. We hate that. When I sit on the couch with my wife and we watch these games and they go into overtime, we're stressed out way more than we were during the game, because when you get into that extra time, it's a coin flip. They say if you win the face-off, there's a 66% chance that you will win the game.
Just by winning the opening face-off.
Just by winning a center ice puck drop. Right. And the teams are starting to realize that. So they're sending out their top faceoff guy, even though you don't want him on the ice for the 3-on-3, but they're sending him out, winning the draw, and then he's going straight to the bench to get changed to get the guy that they want on. So teams are understanding how important that faceoff is. But the one thing, which brings me back to my point, okay, Boston 16, 6, and 9. I see that as 16 and 15. Because those 9 losses means that if I would have taken these guys, I would have lost all of those ones. So I see them as a 500 team because of us handicapping money lines. And then there's a world of hurt going on in Boston. Their fucking power play is just terrible right now. They scored 4 goals on the power play in their last 10 games. And I felt like we just had this conversation last week, Burnsy, about them scoring only 4 goals in the last 10 games before that. And now we're a week later and it's the same thing.
Listen, man, I know they just got their teeth kicked in by the Islanders 5-1 last game. 7 games have gone to overtime. They're blowing third period leads, which is not Boston like. They're giving up 3.6 goals per game. But is this just a weird stretch, or is this really who Boston is?
So, at the start of the year, they were really good, and they went on a long run. What did they start the year? 10-2-1 or something?
Something like that.
But this is a different, this is a different world now. This is March. And March is a lot different than October and November for a lot of reasons, because the shittier teams get better. And sometimes the good teams don't. Sometimes they just stay where they are. And this isn't the same Boston team as last year. When you look at the goaltending alone, Allmark and Swayman could be, a $7 million goalie on any other team, maybe more, depending on who it is. And they're just not good right now. And they haven't been for a while. Like, there's been a lot of question marks on who's their number one guy right now. I listened to some of the reports that I have on my online there, and there's not a lot of faith in goaltending right now, which is weird because you have two guys that are so good. And I'm not blaming it all on them, because I think Boston as a team defensively is not a good team. Like, Pasternak has got to be arguably one of the worst defensive forwards. I love him. I mean, he's an excellent goal scorer. He does a lot of good things for the game, but God, some of his decisions with the puck in the defensive zone or the neutral zone that, often turn into turnovers, and over time that's going to catch up to you. And if they haven't learned anything from losing in 7 to Florida last year, it should be that we got to limit our turnovers, and they're just not doing it right now, Burnsy. And that's a big part of the reason why they're not successful.
Well, I'll tell you what's not going to help them out either. They got some guys on the shelf, Hampus Lindholm, he's on IR. He's gone. Matt Grzelcyk, he's day-to-day. He may come back for this one, probably not. Zaka's day-to-day. I mean, he's a big piece of their offense. I don't know, man. They're reeling, and now they got to walk into Toronto, right? And I mean, it's the fucking Leafs. We all know it, right? But the fucking Leafs, they're still 9-1 in their last 10. Right. I mean, I understand, we love shitting on the Leafs better than anybody. Right. And the moment that we actually pumped their tires last pod, and felt good about where they were, what did they do? They get shit pumped by fucking Vegas. But I mean, after that beating, they did come back and win their next 2. They won a big one against the Rangers. I don't understand overtime's a coin flip, but I mean, they won in the shootout. I mean, one thing this team definitely knows how to do, man, is light the lamp. I mean, in their last 10, they have the only game that they didn't score at least 4 goals was that beating in Vegas.
Those nights are going to happen. I take that Vegas game and with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it was just one of those weird games. And then
Vegas got murdered by Buffalo later in the week.
Well, exactly. And I don't like Vegas right now because of how shelved they are. I mean, Eichel's skating again, and I think Stone isn't too far out from getting back in that lineup. So I don't really take this game as Leafs suck kind of game. I take it as it's just kind of one of those games that just didn't work out. The power play wasn't going. And believe it or not, the Leafs power play has really struggled the last 3 games. And that's such a big part of that team, man. If you had to rank each team as overall for IQ, Toronto would have to be one of the highest IQ teams hockey sense-wise. You see some of the shit Mitch Marner does, and he'll be on a breakaway, and he's looking over his shoulder looking for a drop pass because he knows he's going to get the goalie to bite because it's a breakaway. And, how many times has he done that? You don't see that very often from other teams. So, this is a very hockey smart team. Now they've got some injury issues now on the back end. Giordano blows a tire and crashes into the boards. Lyubushkin gets absolutely rocked by big man Rempe. Which how about that scrap though? That was good tilt. Reeves and Rempe. Good to see a young guy out there, not afraid to throw him with some veteran guys. So you got a lot of respect for him.
But that young kid sure knows how to wear a fucking beating though.
Oh man, you think he would be in makeup before the game? Come on, can you just hide some of this black, just a little bit of whatever facial coverings? I don't know. I'm sure his girlfriend would probably lend us up. Oh, he's a tough dude, and he can go out and take a beating and not miss a shift. So I got a lot of respect for that guy, and he's really getting under the microscope now in New York because they're like, we need to see him actually play though. We love this part of the game, but can he actually play? So I can see him maybe shelving the gloves for a little bit and getting the hockey a little bit. But yeah, it's a tough matchup here with Boston being so not good on the road. for lack of a better terms, and how hot the Leafs have been. Like we had bet against the Leafs with Arizona, because they haven't beat them in 20 fucking years, and B, Joseph Woll just made his return, and he was outstanding. I thought Arizona deserved to win that game. I felt like Arizona outplayed Toronto for a big part of that game. And, they finally break the curse, the Arizona curse. And a big part of that was to Woll. So obviously we don't know what goalie is starting tonight. But I'm leaning on, if I'm Sheldon Keefe, I'm probably looking at putting Woll in. Arizona was a perfect time to bring him into it, because typically, you want to play against a little bit of a shittier team when you get a goalie coming off of a long IR stint. And that's what he got. And he played really well. So I think it's now time to test him again, because there's still question marks for Toronto on who's their number one goalie going to be coming into the postseason. Samsonov is definitely it right now. But now it's, where's Woll going to match up? Can we get some similar numbers? So I think if he's healthy, you got to play him. You got to get his confidence up. You got him to see some NHL shots again, and you got to get him going.
Well, I mean, one thing that Toronto has done very well in the last 10 games is keep the puck out of the net. Besides that Vegas drumming that they took, I mean, they're allowing 2.7 goals a game, and I don't know is Boston going to be able to hang 3 on them? Are they going to be able to hang 4? They're in this weird fucking spot right now where they could just throw 5 spot up, or they can just throw up 1 like they did with the Isles before. Not sure how this one's going to go, but the Leafs are probably going to hit the overall by themselves. I mean, these guys fucking fire. And especially with these question marks in goal, that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I don't mind that. But the other interesting thing is Boston beats up on Toronto. They beat them the last 5 meetings in a row, dating back to 2022. So it's when you have these rivalries and divisional matchups, sometimes your game just elevates on its own because what's at stake. Especially when you're looking at the standings here. Like the Leafs got 2 games at hand. They got 78 points. Boston has 84 points. So if Toronto wins this game, that brings them to 80 with a game at hand. And if they win the next one, they're going to be within 2 points of Boston. The
Leafs could overtake. They could possibly overtake Boston by the end of the week.
It's possible. I mean, they need to come out at home and send Boston a message. But at the same time, Boston is kind of a desperate team right now. They're desperate to get some parts of their game going that just isn't. And one of them is the power play. Toronto doesn't take a ton of penalties, so it may not be a great test for Boston if they do get on the power play, because they're a pretty disciplined team. And we all know how dangerous Toronto's power play is. They were like 47% on the power play in the last 9 games before the weekend, or before the 27th. Like, that is impressive. And I mean, of course, look at their lineup. If you got Matthews is scoring 70 goals this year, quarterback in that whole thing. So Boston wants to be in this game. They need to stay out of the box.
Well, of the last 5, and like you said, Boston's rolled them the last 5. 4 of them have been 1-goal games. And great news for handicappers, the last 3 have all gone to overtime. Yeah. So we'll see if Boston's overtime stretch continues here.
I do still like Bertuzzi on the points. He's still on that number 1 power play. I think that he should have had a goal against the one that went in from the point. I thought it hit his skate. It looked like the puck changed direction, and we were banking on it because it was part of our parlay, but he didn't get the credit for it. But even the way his body language showed is like, oh yeah, it hit me. But I don't think it ever got overturned, which doesn't matter. But I like Bertuzzi, what he's doing now compared to what he was all season. He's finally starting to get going again, and playing on that number 1 power play is just going to give him that much more energy. I could see him getting an apple tonight, or maybe even a goal.
Well, I think if Boston is going to be able to keep up, I got my money on David Pastrnak, netting 1 ATG over here. I mean, he's leading everything. Marchand's not too far behind him, but he's the guy. He may be a liability on defense, but that boy knows how to play, and he plays well against Toronto in his career.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right, guys,
definitely.
that's going to do it for us over here. I mean, we are turning the last corner on the NHL season. There's just about only 23 games left. I mean, these games are going to get really, really difficult as people try to jockey for playoff spots. So, I mean, you guys need our help now more than ever. Make sure you get over to whylose.com. If you want to tip your toes in the water, get a day pass. We got $100 week passes, $300 months for the end. That month pass will pretty much bring you right up until the end of the season. Les, tell them what's in store for the stretch run. What do we got coming up?
We got a lot of big stuff coming up. We love putting guarantees on the cards. We don't hit them all the time, but it's a good way for people to try a service and get involved with it cheap. And if it's really, really good. It's a really good thing to have if you want to see what we're bringing to the window. And some of our bets, you might look at them and you'll kind of think like, wow, how did he come up with this? And obviously there is a ton of research that goes into these bets. And at the end of the day, the game still has to get played on the ice. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out, but all season we've been green so far. We're still cashing at the window all the time. The bacon parlays have been hitting really well, over 50%, which really we're only counting on them about 25%. That's kind of the goal with those because we played them with such small units. So anytime that they hit more than that, it's always good. We're even giving out bonus prop parlays now too, which a lot of people are not only taking them as a parlay, but they're also betting them individually in case maybe one of the legs doesn't hit. They can still find some value in those bets.
All right, guys, make sure you follow us on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. We'll catch you back over here. We'll have another episode over here for you tomorrow. Make sure you all take care of each other. We'll see you all soon.